Okay, imagine this. What does it actually take to find the perfect undiscovered wave? Especially when it's hidden in a country that, well, explicitly doesn't want you there.
Yeah, we're talking about some serious challenges. Planning around specific monsoon winds, trying to navigate using ancient cargo boats that sail at 10 p.m.
And then facing the very real risk of getting deported the minute you step ashore.
Exactly. So today we're doing a deep dive into the kind of extreme logistics and honestly the absolutely critical cultural diplomacy that's required for true exploratory travel.
And we've got a perfect case study. A trip to Myanmar's forbidden coastline. It's this region rumored to have these amazing, pristine waves, hidden not really by geography, but more by bureaucracy and military rule at the time.
Mm-hmm. And this whole high-stakes account, it's full of meticulous research, but also some pretty daring entry tactics. It's drawn from this fantastic new book called SurfEXPLORE, Discovering New Surfing Locations Worldwide.
Right, and it chronicles the groundbreaking work, sometimes maybe slightly illegal work, done by John Seton Callahan and the Surf Explorer group.
So our mission today is really to unpack that journey for you. How did they even plan it? How did they figure out the exact seasonal science they needed?
And what happened when they arrived? That moment they realized, uh-oh, we've unknowingly broken a pretty major law.
And then, how did they manage to stay? We'll get into this bizarre, kind of crucial local relationship they had to leverage just to secure their stay and ultimately get that surf session they came for.
Okay, let's dive in. So the trip kicks off with their arrival in Yangon, which used to be Rangoon.
Right.
And if you're picturing, say, Bangkok or another buzzing Southeast Asian capital, the sources immediately paint a picture of, well, a stark contrast.
Oh, totally stark. The book really highlights this visible deterioration. You're seeing mildewed buildings, crumbling structures, just this palpable sense of neglect, a real lack of modern investment compared to its neighbors.
Yeah,
And that immediate visual difference, between Yangon and Bangkok, it must have been a signal right away that the logistics ahead were going to be pretty tough.
for sure. So the main goal is reaching the Rakhine coast. And straight off the bat, they hit that classic challenge of frontier travel infrastructure,
Yeah.
or lack thereof.
Right. The default option, a 16-hour bus ride
Ugh.
on incredibly rough, crowded buses. Imagine doing that with fragile board bags. It just sounds like a nightmare start to a surf trip.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, understandably, they decided, look, sacrificing a whole day and possibly our spines isn't worth it. They opted for speed instead.
Oh,
They bought one-way tickets on an AR-72 turboprop plane flying to Thandwe.
smart. But even that wasn't straightforward, was it?
No, because even booking the plane involved that classic exploratory check. They actually had to call ahead to make sure the cargo hold was physically big enough to fit the surfboards.
You don't think about that on a normal flight.
Exactly. It's those tiny details that can make or break a trip like this.
So, Thandwe, that's the gateway to Nkali Beach, right?
Right.
Which sounds idyllic, like 30 kilometers of white sand, apparently one of the world's finest natural beaches.
Yeah, pure postcard stuff. Must have felt like they were finally getting close.
The close isn't the same as scoring waves.
Precisely. Aesthetically close, yes, but they hadn't quite nailed the science part yet, location-wise. And this is where the technical timing becomes so fascinating and so crucial.
Okay, explain that.
They plan this whole thing for mid to late April, and that's critical because it's right before the really violent southwest monsoon hits that region.
Okay, so why that specific narrow window? What were they looking for?
They needed this very specific convergence of conditions. First, they were chasing that powerful, long-period southwest groundswell. That's the deep ocean energy, travels thousands of miles across the Indian Ocean. Super powerful.
Right.
But raw power isn't enough. To make that wave actually shapely and surfable, they needed it to align with the northeast wind, which is typical of the dry season.
The offshore wind, the magic ingredient.
Exactly. That's the wind that holds the wave face up, keeps it clean and rideable instead of just closing out.
So they get the science right, they nail the timing, they fly in, they get to Gonkali, this paradise beach, and
And it was flat.
oh no!
Completely waveless after days of scouting around. It's just the inherent risk of exploration, isn't it?
Absolutely. So what went wrong? The science seems sound.
The science was sound for the region, but the specific bathymetry, that's the underwater shape of the seabed right there at Ngapali,
Yeah.
it just wasn't right for capturing that swell.
Oh, yeah.
That beautiful beach area, it just didn't stick out far enough into the Bay of Bengal. It was too protected, essentially. The swell energy was just passing it by further offshore.
Okay, so immediate pivot required. They needed somewhere much more exposed, a place that really stuck its chin out into the Indian Ocean, basically.
Correct. So back to the maps, the satellite imagery, all the research, and it pointed them squarely towards one specific location, Jaduba Island.
Chiduba Island.
Yeah. Based on the research, it looked like the single most exposed bit of land on the entire coastline of Rakhine State. Prime territory.
But getting there must have meant leaving behind, like, any shred of organized tourism or modern convenience.
Oh, completely. And the only way they figured out how to do it was through advice from a local host family they'd connected with.
What was the plan?
It was pretty basic, frontier style. Step 1, take a taxi to the next river town along the coast. Step 2, arrange passage on a cargo boat. Not a ferry, mind you, a working cargo boat.
Okay.
And that boat left at 10 p.m. Step 3, and this was critical. Load up on local currency, the Kayat pronounced chat,
Wow.
because there was literally no bank, no ATM, no way to change money on Jaduba Island itself. Once you were there, you were on your own financially.
Wow. Okay, so they get the cash, they find the cargo boat, they secure a passage late at night, heading out to sea. Completely in the dark, both literally and, it turns out, figuratively about the rules.
Yeah, this is where the story gets really tense.
Yeah.
Because after they arrive on Jaduba, they offload all their boards, all their gear. Only then do they learn, after the fact, that they've just committed a major transgression.
Well,
They found out it was completely, totally illegal for any foreigners to visit Jaduba Island. Full stop.
whoa. Not just difficult, but actually illegal.
Illegal. There was no permit they could have gotten beforehand, no fee they could have paid, apparently not even a kind of, unofficial payment route.
Yeah.
The law just strictly forbade foreign visitors, period.
This was Myanmar under pretty strict military influence back then, right?
Yeah.
Independent travel wasn't exactly encouraged.
Highly scrutinized. So showing up unannounced on a forbidden island, that's terrifying. They immediately had to check in with the local police, which is standard procedure for foreigners anyway in Myanmar.
Did they just walk in and basically turn themselves in?
They kind of had to, yeah, just out of sheer necessity. But incredibly, that interaction led them to this really influential local figure, the Major.
Okay, the Major. His background is pretty fascinating, and it kind of explains why they weren't just put straight back on the next boat out, right?
Exactly. He wasn't just some random guy. He was a local man who had actually served in the Myanmar Air Force, which meant he'd had access to higher education and probably held some level of influence. And crucially, he'd received language training, get this, in both the UK and the US.
Wow. Okay, so he had this unique perspective, this bridge between their world and the local one.
Totally. He had since retired back to Jaduba to farm his family's land, but he also worked part-time for the local police force.
So this wasn't just some friendly local they bumped into. This guy wielded actual, tangible government authority, even if part-time.
Absolutely. And he used it.
Yeah.
The book describes how he basically just waved off the other police officers who were insisting, quite rightly, that the foreigners had to leave immediately.
He overruled them.
Yeah. He declared himself their official sponsor, their de facto minder, essentially. He promised the authorities he'd keep an eye on them, visit them every few days on his bicycle, report on their location and activities.
On spice.
Apparently. Since there was only one main road and very few cars, it worked. Accepting his oversight basically was the only path to being allowed to stay.
What a bizarre, fragile negotiation. Trading total freedom for just the right to stay and hopefully surf.
And the Major himself sort of underlined how serious their illegal entry was. He mentioned that a German backpacker had shown up 3 years prior and was put straight back on the next boat to the mainland. No questions asked.
So these guys were incredibly lucky. Or maybe just incredibly persuasive.
Probably a bit of both. Plus, the Major seeing maybe some kind of opportunity or just be intrigued. Anyway, he used his influence to arrange for them to stay in his cousin's house.
Okay.
And importantly, it was in the remote southwest corner of the island, which just happened to be the exact area they thought would have the best swell exposure based on their research.
That's convenient and necessary, I guess, because there wouldn't have been any guest houses or anything, right? Since foreigners weren't allowed.
0 places for foreigners. So they'd managed to navigate this massive, bureaucratic, legal roadblock entirely because of this one human connection. Pretty amazing.
Okay, so they're settled into this borrowed house on a forbidden beach. Finally, they can actually look at the waves. What did they find initially?
Well, they found waves, about 2 to 3 foot, rolling into the point near the house. And that crucial offshore northeast wind was working, keeping them clean.
Decent, but probably not quite the world-class discovery they risked everything for.
Not quite yet, but while they were figuring that out, the cultural immersion really deepened. Their host, the major's cousin and his wife, were incredible.
How so?
They'd come down every single morning at sunrise and cook these huge communal meals for everyone over a wood fire.
Hmm.
We're talking rice, eggs, fresh fish, vegetables,
Wow.
and they'd make enough to cover lunch and dinner too because, again, there were just no shops or restaurants anywhere nearby they could easily get to. They were completely reliant on this family's hospitality.
That's incredible generosity. But still, those 2 to 3 foot waves, they weren't the ultimate prize. They
Yeah.
needed to find that hidden spot.
Exactly. And the breakthrough tool here wasn't some high-tech gadget or satellite data. It was a simple pair of binoculars.
Old school. Love it.
Totally. Just the simplest piece of gear making the biggest difference. Through the binoculars scanning the horizon, they spotted something much further out.
What was it?
Waves. Breaking consistently on the side of this small, kind of pyramid-shaped island way offshore from their beach house. And crucially, even from that distance, they could tell these waves looked much bigger.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
The invisible wave found. But now, a new problem. How do you actually get out there miles offshore?
Right. Another logistical hurdle. So they approached their host, the major's cousin. The book says they basically drew a picture in the sand, or on paper, a surfboard, the island.
Trying to mime, we need to get out there.
Pretty much. And the host looks at their drawing, probably chuckles, and gives this incredibly simple, just game-changing reply. I have a boat.
Oh, brilliant. Just like that.
Just like that. What an opening. But of course, it wasn't quite that simple.
There's always a catch, isn't there?
Always, especially in places like this. The host said yes, they could use his boat BUT. 2 conditions.
Okay, what were they?
First, they needed to somehow source diesel fuel for it. Second, they needed to find his regular boatman who lived in the nearby village,
Okay.
provided the boatman wasn't drunk at the time.
Oh my goodness. So the key to surfing this potentially world-class undiscovered wave literally hinged on finding 15 liters of diesel and the sobriety of one specific local boatman.
That is the absolute definition of fragile on-the-ground logistics, isn't it? It just throws everything into sharp relief. You can solve the political risk with the major, you can solve the wave science with binoculars, but you're still utterly dependent on finding fuel and hoping the boat guy's having a good day.
Incredible. So did they manage it?
They did. It took hours of work, apparently, tracking down the fuel, finding the boatman, who thankfully was sober enough, gathering basic supplies like bananas, bread rolls, water.
The essentials.
And then they finally set off at sunrise the next day, heading out towards that little pyramid island.
Okay, the moment of truth. What was the payoff like when they finally got out there?
The payoff was, well, spectacular. As soon as they got close, the realization hit them immediately. The swell breaking next to that little island was easily twice as big as anything they'd seen breaking near the mainland.
Twice as big. Wow. Why such a huge difference over a relatively short distance? What was going on?
It was all about the bathymetry again, the underwater landscape.
Ah,
The sources explain that the water was much, much deeper right next to that offshore pinnacle island. Close to the mainland, the seafloor sloped really gradually, which causes the incoming swell energy to kind of drag, slow down, lose power, and break much softer.
right, it mushes out.
Exactly. But out there, next to the island, that deep water allowed the long-period groundswell to race and holding all its power until it hit that shallow pinnacle really abruptly.
Causing it to stand up and throw.
Violently and perfectly, it just jacked up into this amazing wave.
That is the ultimate validation for the whole crazy trip. Did they get good waves?
Oh, yeah. The book says Randy and Torsten got a solid 3 hours surfing this absolutely immaculate right-hander. All the planning, all the risks, the illegal entry, the negotiation, the drunk boatman anxiety, it all paid off right there.
Fantastic. A true surfEXPLORE success story.
Mission accomplished. And there's this lovely little coda to the story. On his final checkup visit, Major rode his bicycle over, saw them happy and surfed out, and apparently noted, quite fistfully,
What did he say?
he said something like, "So many things for visitors to do on our island. Maybe someday we can have foreign visitors here." This captures that tension beautifully, doesn't it?
It really does. The potential and the reality of the restrictions.
Yeah.
So we kind of zoom out. What does this incredible journey tell us about exploration today?
Well, I think it shows that true exploration, especially in the modern era, it's often less about pure geographical discovery, finding a place no human has ever seen, and far more about intense, multi-layered problem solving.
Yeah.
It required that perfect blend of science, understanding the ocean, but also immense adaptability when the infrastructure failed or didn't exist. And maybe most importantly, that profound cultural engagement.
That relationship with the major was everything.
Absolutely. The secret to finding this hidden wave wasn't ultimately a computer model or a satellite map. It was the influence and goodwill of one retired Air Force officer on a bicycle.
And it really highlights how critical those local relationships become when, centralized government infrastructure is either missing or, in this case, actively hostile to what you're trying to do.
Totally. Without the major's intervention and also the sheer kindness and willingness of the host family to help them, potentially risking trouble themselves, this trip would have been over before it began. They would see nothing.
So wrapping this up, what should you, our listener, take away from this?
Well, here's maybe a final provocative thought to mull over.
How many other incredible natural wonders out there, whether it's perfect surf spots like this, or maybe hidden archaeological sites, unique ecosystems, how many are currently inaccessible to the wider world, not because of physics or geology blocking the way,
But because of something like a 10 p.m. cargo boat schedule.
or the existence or non-existence of one influential, perhaps bike-riding retired official who can bend the rules just enough?
That's an excellent question to ponder. And just a reminder, this absolutely fascinating, detailed account of extreme surf travel we've been discussing is an excerpt from the book surfEXPLORE, Discovering New Surfing Locations Worldwide.
That's right. It's by John Seton Callahan, published by Schiffer Publishing, documenting the amazing work of Callahan and the surfEXPLORE group.
And if you're intrigued and want to dive deeper into these kinds of real-life exploration stories, the book is readily available.
Yep, you can find surfEXPLORE on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, W.H. Smith in the UK, Kinokuniya, and really many other good booksellers worldwide. Definitely worth checking out for your next deep dive.